And a very special good morning, everybody. Great to be with you on this fine Thursday edition of the program. It's Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge today. We will be joined by the great Dave Gurgles Gurgley, who will be testing your knowledge of sports and your ability to put things together on the fly. Think on the fly, think on your feet, spin, make adjustments, be able to handle adversity, compete at the highest levels. And that's going to be happening shortly here in the program. But before we get to that, and this is great, Mike Lubie's doing a dynamite job as a producer of the show. And it's kind of interesting because Lubie's always probing these various athletic departments to see if we can get head coaches on from various teams. Usually very cooperative when it comes to basketball, not so much on the gridiron. So he contacted, of course, before the season, FSU. I think you kind of waited on that one to see how it was going to go against Duquesne.
This week.
If they had lost that game, I think you would have, told the guy to lose your number. But University of Miami and of course, the University of Florida. Now, University of Florida has somewhat been a vast wasteland. I don't know if that's because I'm still on the list of enemies of the Gator Nation. I don't think so.
I don't know.
We sucked up to Mick Hubert for all of those years. I like Mick. And it was genuine admiration for the professionalism that he brought to the table as an announcer and, his acute knowledge of Gator football. I mean, you couldn't have gone to a better source, right? The guy had total recall of, much like Gene Deckeroff did with FSU. And so, it was always great having Mick on the show, and we kind of enjoyed it. And I'm glad we kind of repaired that relationship because that kind of dated back to Spurrier and stemmed all the way back to the Gator flop. And some of the Gator flack that I used to get being a host here in South Florida in the days when the Gators, prior to when they chickened out on their matchup every year with the University of Miami. Little did they know Miami was going to go in the tank after Larry Coker took over. They were going to go through a series of bozoic moves when it came to coaching hires, and they were going to be where they're at today. Just reveling in a victory over Bethune-Cookman because it's the start of something big. But neither the University of Florida or University of Miami has gotten back in touch with Mike Lubie. I think eventually we'll have their coaches on the show. Billy Napier seems like he would be an accessible guy and amenable to be doing an interview. And we know Mario Cristobal personally from his days here. It wasn't a problem to get him on the show when he was coaching at FIU. It really wasn't a problem. If you called FIU and said, "Hey, we'd like to have your coach on," they would say, "He's right here right now. You want to talk to him?" It was great. But we will be talking here in just a few minutes, maybe even before that, shortly, to Mike Norvell, the head coach of the Florida State Seminoles, who, without a doubt, pulled off the most unbelievable victory on the college football slate, certainly to begin the season. And I think this will hold up all year, maybe as the thriller in Manila finish. So we want to introduce this man we want to get him ready for what he's going to be facing here in this interview because he's got a lot on his plate here. Got a week off before he goes against Louisville, but still a 2-0 record, and got to get the kids back focused again after this huge victory. You don't want them getting too full up, or as Nick Saban would say, drinking the rat poison there. And I don't know that he operates in this fashion, but. We're going to be talking here in a second to Mike Norvell, but a previous Lubie interview with an FSU coach now has reached a level of infamy here on the show as it started out like this, a little bit rough.
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't get your question.
You were a coach that you coached all kinds of teams. You had teams that...
Say it in English.
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
All right, we just wanted to give you a warning, Mike Norvell, that you could be facing a need for a translator here in the program. The head coach of Florida State joins us here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie's here at South Florida Live. Mike Norvell coming off one of the most thrilling victories that we've seen in the history of sport. Coach, how are you? Glad to have you on the program.
I appreciate you having me on, and it definitely was a wild one.
Wild one. I was thinking as I was getting ready to do the show here, I'm looking in the mirror, I'm thinking, geez, you look like an old man today because I looked like I went 12 with Oscar De La Hoya. I was watching a tennis match last night. If you wanted to see like competitive fire coming to the forefront here, it ended up at 3 a.m. And I was thinking, in all my years of watching sports, and my memory goes back to like maybe being 5 years old, my earliest memories of watching sports, been doing it my whole life. I don't know that I've seen a finish quite like that. I mean, have you ever experienced anything close to that? I know that there are many wild finishes that take place in football games and, participation in other sports, but I don't know that I've ever seen anything quite like that. Give us your capsulization of what those final couple of minutes were like.
I mean, that's the great thing about football is, it always will find its way to be able to finish with the importance of one rep. And it's something that we talk to our players about all the time. You never know when that one play, that difference making play is going to show up, and it just happened to be on the very last snap there Sunday night. But we talk about letting your effort be a deciding factor in a game, and that was one thing that definitely showed up was the heart and the effort that our guys showed. Even in times of adversity, nobody wants to be in a situation where you have a lead. There's mistakes that are made. Things that happen. But ultimately, you still have the choice of how you're going to respond in that situation. LSU scored on their final offensive play, but they still had to kick the extra point. And when you watch this is the desire that our guys had to go make that play and to see it. Shaheem blocked the kick and it hit the upright, and when that occurred, it was an unreal experience, and just so proud of our guys for the effort they put in. And you get done with the game and you go back and look at it, and you see all the areas of improvement that we can and will make as we're pushing forward throughout the course of the season. But it's definitely when you get to see that identity show up, it's something you're proud of as a coach.
It also represents a little bit of a karma turnaround as you're trying to get the culture going in the right direction there, because throughout history, and of course we covered a lot of University of Miami, Florida State games here in South Florida, those game-ending kicks have not necessarily gone the direction of Florida State in a favorable fashion. We remember Bobby Bowden, with just a look on his face of pure shock after a couple of missed field goals, wide right, wide left in big ball games. Now, after the LSU Tigers scored on that final play, did you have time to really think what was going on out there, right, when you sent the special teams out there? Because it was almost like the camera crew watching a game on TV was recording some of this mass chaos that was going on. And then all of a sudden, they slipped to a shot of the extra point attempt, and you see it being blocked. So what was going on the sidelines there? Because there was chaos before that with trying to figure out what the ruling should be when the LSU tight end was tackled in bounds.
Well, when they scored, it was immediately sent our field goal block team out, and I was just holding up one finger, one play, one opportunity, and our guys they took hold of it, and it's funny because it stemmed from an earlier blocked field goal that we had with Jared Verse, did an incredible job, and LSU overcompensated there on the extra point, making sure that they had him blocked, and it provided somebody else's opportunity. And you never know when your moment's going to be. You never know when you're going to have the chance to impact the game. And our guys were ready, and were able to finish the game just because of taking advantage of the chance that they had.
Coach, something Coach Bowden said a lot, and it's been brought up a lot during your tenure, is first you lose big, then you lose close, then you win close, then you win big. And we've seen that with you building this program back to greatness. It's sort of building slowly in that exact way. They lost big. Last year, you lost a lot of tough games. Now you go and win a tough game. You referenced it. Look, that game, you did have a big lead, and there was some mistakes made at the end that sort of tightened it up in a way no one wanted, especially us Noles. How do you take that next step to close those games out? What are you trying to do to get in these kids' heads and the coaching staff's head to be where that game does not tighten up and you can win with a little bit more ease?
It's just the continued growth. It's making sure that with all situations that we're getting better, and it's players, coaches, everybody involved. I referenced yesterday, talking to some people that, I like learning lessons when you win a game.
Yeah.
And, as you sit there and we found a way to be successful. And, when you look at that game Sunday night, I thought we had a dominating performance, for 56 minutes of it. And, then there were some things that were done, mistakes that were made, in all aspects that, allowed that game to be a lot closer than it needed to be. And, that's where we have to continue to grow. And, I love the foundation that's been laid here. We have worked tirelessly, just to make sure that we're establishing the values, the culture, the work ethic. We have the right young men. I'm so grateful for the guys that I get to coach and seeing the investment that they're making. And now it's just about taking those continued, steps of growth in all phases. And when you embrace that journey, when you embrace those challenges, and you're able to respond when adversity and now success shows itself, you got a chance to do something really special. And I'm excited for the future, and really looking forward to seeing our guys elevate their games and making sure that we can close those games out maybe a little bit less stressful.
Please.
Head coach of Florida State, Mike Norvell, with us here, coming off a big victory over LSU in New Orleans, where you might have also been under the influence of some voodoo and various curses, because you would think LSU would dominate, although a very nice representation there by the Florida State faithful, who came out to the game and made us almost seem like it was even Steven there. I don't know if you felt that way, Coach, but really a good job by the fans coming out there and supporting the Florida State Seminoles. What were you facing? I mean, they always used the cliche, well, geez, so-and-so left a cupboard bare, and then I know that was said about Jimbo Fisher, and then Willie Taggart came in there, and the situation really kind of got even more exasperating and seemed to just get worse. He was quickly dismissed. What were some of the challenges you were facing? And did the landscape that you thought you were coming into kind of play out as you saw it, or were there challenges there that you didn't see?
Anytime that there's, that much change and turnover, and you can talk about three head coaches in 4 years, and I think there was 8 coordinators in a 5-year period of time, and there was a lot of change within the program. And so it doesn't go back to one person or one situation. It's just change is hard for anyone, and we needed to be able to establish a foundation and set the consistent values of what this team was going to be moving forward, and really let guys and leaders emerge throughout trying to hit that standard. And that's one of the things that's been so fun to see this year is we now have players coaching players, because players they have an expectation of what our standard is. It's not just the coaching staff, it's now it's a team standard of how we're going to work, how we're going to operate, what we're going to do. And when you see that ownership in those values, it really helps bring along the newcomers. Your players are holding each other accountable, and just whenever there's that much change, it's the expectations are constantly changing. The communication, the language is constantly changing. And so players aren't able to really take ownership because they're still trying to figure it out themselves. And so that's one of the things that's been pleasing, is just to see the buy-in from our players, and just the growth that we've been able to have. I mean, and there's been some real challenges, like you mentioned. I mean, how we started off the season ago, starting off the season, I think we're 0-4, but watching players respond because they believed in what we were asking them to do. It's just, we had to get better and more consistent at doing it. And, it didn't mean it was perfect at the end of it, but there were still those lessons to be learned. And now it's about taking those lessons and applying the lessons as we move forward. And that's the part of the journey that we're in now. And you're really excited about, what that holds for our future.
Coach, two of the biggest things right now with college football are the transfer portal and NIL. What's interesting to me is you came in, and we talked to you a couple years ago, and you've attacked both. Literally, you got it might have turned out to be the best transfer of all of them last year, as Jermaine Johnson comes from Georgia, getting barely any time, and to being a top 3 defensive player in the country, a first-round pick. This year, Jared Verse out of Albany was an FCS player that came on the scene and is literally playing as good as any defensive player in the country. Plus, NIL-wise, you had one of the first collectives around, where a lot of other schools have sort of slow played both NIL and transfer portal. You've attacked both with ferocity. Why was that, and how has it helped you sort of move along this growth process?
So, for us, we're looking for the right fit for Florida State, and we're trying to bring the biggest, strongest, fastest, best fit for our program that's gonna help guide us to where we want to go. And I think we've done a great job in the high school ranks and bringing some incredible newcomers that have been able to make an impact, as true freshmen and early in their career. And then we've also been able to do that within the transfer portal and find guys that, for whatever their previous experience was, they fit what we were looking for. And we've been able to bring in great leaders, very talented players, but really great young men that want to be a part of this journey. And seeing all that come together, it's really that's one of my favorite parts of being a head coach is building a team. And we've got some guys that have played at an elite level, and Jared is a great story of how he was able to play there on that showcase stage. I mean, he was remarkable, and we look forward to great days ahead. But it's always about finding the right fit, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
How do you feel your philosophies and ideas fit in with the direction that college football is going, Coach Norvell? What we have now, the proposition of an expansion of the college football playoff, and of course, we're seeing all kinds of changes on the conference level and a little bit of uncertainty as to how all that's going to play out. In what way, if at all, does that impact the way that you're running the program at FSU? And what's your general thought about the direction the sport is taking?
For us, we're a part of an incredible institution, a storied tradition, we're focusing on the things that we can control and going out and being our best with every single opportunity and making sure we represent this Florida State football program and our university the way it deserves to be represented. And we're part of a great conference, that we have an unbelievable tradition and history with, and we're gonna continue to push and making sure that our program is growing the way that it needs to grow. But it is definitely a different time in college athletics, and for everybody that's involved, it's there's going to be some new steps and transitions, but ultimately my focus is on this team and what we're doing to improve and get better, and that's the work that we're putting in.
All right. Well, you're assuredly aware that the Florida State fans down here were delighted. Lubie, one of your better backers, predicted that you would be in this game with LSU. We had some of our handicappers that come on the show thought it was going to go the other way and not be such a comfortable result for the Seminoles. But I do have to ask you this, if you don't mind, and just one more thing, because the topic of conversation everywhere was this ball game. Everywhere I went, I had a couple of meetings and ran into some people at some social gatherings, and everybody's saying, hey, did you see that game, FSU and LSU? And the big question was, and I guess in hindsight, it might make it easier to answer, but if you went through that series of plays again at the goal line, would you ever put a lateral play in there again? Or did that just, it was a play that you thought would work that went haywire?
Well, I definitely wouldn't have called it if I didn't think it was going to work. But the risk reward was probably not the best decision at that time. And if I got faith in our players, and ultimately, it's all things that we reflect. Like I said, players, coaches, everybody involved. You go back and see if where can you get better and what can you do. And ultimately, I'm glad that we were able to make the plays that were necessary to win the game, and we're going to continue to improve as we're moving forward.
All right, that's fair. Do you like the clock stoppage after first downs? Do you think? No, obviously in this case it was great for you, but bad for you. But do you in general like that rule to stop the clock after first down at the end of the game?
Yeah, that's the way it's been. So we'll continue to roll with it. And,
exactly.
All right, and congratulations again. I don't know that I've ever seen Brian Kelly. He looked like he needed a quart of blood after that muff punt, and then it got wild, even more haywire after that. Fantastic win. Good luck the rest of the way, Coach. Thanks so much for coming on the show with us. Really appreciate it, and we applaud the victory, and congratulations on getting off to this big 2-0 start.
I appreciate you guys having me on, and go Noles.
All right, thanks so much. Thanks. He does end every interview with "Go Noles." I like that. He did that when he was on the field there after this wild finish, man.
100%.
That came up a bunch of times, though. What is this, lateral play? He sounded like, he didn't palm it off on some offensive coordinator who was going to get fired this week. So that was good. But you would have to think.
He's talked about it, and he said, look, it wasn't the right play. Look, if you watch the replay, the guy's going to walk in for a touchdown. So It's not like the play design was a bad idea. Like, it was going to score if the guy had caught it. However, he just said, and I liked it, what he said was exactly what I've said. When people are like, oh, it wasn't a bad call, he would have scored. Yeah, but you didn't need it, right? Like, at some point in the game, you can pull back and go, all right, let's just do what we need. Like, he said the risk reward wasn't worth it. Bingo.
Yeah.
You just needed points there. You could have knelt. Honestly, make him use a timeout or run clock, kick a field goal. 2 scores is 2 scores with a minute 20 and no timeouts.